Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You know what time it is, you know what we do here, and we got to talk about Greyzone Warfare. Once again, I've done a few videos covering this brand new update that they're testing amongst the content creators, their 0.3 Winds of War update. Now, as of the making of this video, we still don't have a release date for when this will be, but I can promise you it's going to be very, very soon from what I've heard. And I assume the reason they don't have a release date is because they want to do the changes. They want to get people's feedback, tweak the update, and then release it. They don't want to just release it into the public and then have kind of silly little quality of life issues and a little bit of game design problems when they release it to everybody that they go, how did they miss this? It's good to get people who had supporter edition and content creators such as myself in there, testing it, giving them feedback, letting them know, hey, these are the things we don't like. Hey, these are the things we do like. And these are the things you can innovate. Now, if you go to my very last video that I made about this update, it is specifically about the things I don't like about the Winds of War update, even though I most certainly like more things than I do dislike. So go watch that video. It breaks down the little tiny things that I'm not really too keen on, because I want to talk about what they're already changing about those things before they release this update to the general public. A big one for me is the COPs, these points of interest that you can capture throughout the map, where you can do all of your trading, turning in missions, spawning if you've died, getting loadouts together. Everything you can do at your main FOB can be done at these COPs. Now, one of the main things I didn't like about these COPs is that you could capture one, and as soon as you captured it, can be recaptured by an enemy team with no cooldown, no fortification options. Another weird design issue with these COPs is that people can spawn right back into the COP as soon as they die. But this is one of the things they have changed that I want to talk about here today, is that when the COP becomes contested, and it will become contested if the enemy AI at the COP goes into some sort of alert mode, they see you, you start shooting at them, some sort of instance like that, that when the COP becomes contested, you can no longer spawn there. So if you do kill a bunch of players there, if you're trying to take over that COP, they won't be able to spawn right back with a knife and just kind of run and ambush you and take you down. That is getting changed. As of right now, they're not changing the fact that if you capture these COPs, they can be recaptured almost immediately. Not almost, they can actually just be captured straight away immediately. Now, I thought about this a little bit more, and I do understand why this might not be that big of an issue once this hits the game in particular, because while I'm playing this closed version of the 1.3 update, everybody who's involved has max traders, they have a ton of money, they have all this gear that they can use, and we're all content creators. We're trying to PvP. We're literally rushing every point on the map with a whiff of PvP, and we're just rushing it, capturing as many COPs as we possibly can. So it makes sense that when I capture one and I go to leave, it gets captured because people are trying to show up there to find me so they can fight me. I'm almost certain this will calm down when they release this update to the public, being that everybody is going to be busy leveling up their traders, doing missions, and actually progressing through the game. Given that, like I said, now the difference is that we didn't have to do that. We have everything. So I don't think this will be a big problem once this update actually hits a version of the game where you're actually having to progress through your traders and level up and do your missions and things like that. But it will be kind of annoying when you capture one, you go out to do a mission, you've captured that COP because of the pure fact that it's close and you can return there and return gear and turn in your missions and do certain things, or to get captured again straight away as soon as you go leave to do that mission. I think the COPs are an excellent addition to the game and can most certainly be added upon throughout this game's development cycle. I think one of the most important things in any extraction shooter is how you deal with the end game. And one huge factor in how you deal with end game boredom in extraction shooters is money sinks. This is one small remedy in extraction shooters that you can use for players that play these games far too much. And we all know who you are, the sweats, the chads, the people who just know life these things. When they get to the end game, they have everything and nothing left to do but to PvP. But that gets boring. People want more things to do, which makes the second remedy of having layers in your gameplay loop in an extraction shooter crucial for remedying that end game boredom that you might get. So what do I mean with examples before I lose you in deep philosophical talk about extraction shooter gameplay loops? Well, for one, you can add a fortification system to these COPs. That would be that extra layer to the end game gameplay loop I was talking about. You could make these cost a lot of money. That's that money sink I was talking about for these sweaty players that have nothing else to do but to grind to end game equipment. You could even expand on this further. Say you could buy more of a cooldown time for when you capture COPs. They could make them more valuable in certain ways. Like right now, they've added only a couple of the COPs that are kind of higher tier and harder to capture that have a special trader that might have unique equipment for you to buy. They could most certainly expand on that with other COPs, giving them more exclusive benefits to the players that happen to be using it, or even the whole squad that might have that COP. Say one philanthropist in the game decides to spend a shit ton of money actually installing mortars for this huge amount of money at the COP. Right now you have mortars at each enemy FOB and they have a limited distance, and if they go further it's going to take longer for the mortar strikes to reach the destination. Maybe at specific COPs you can spend a shit ton of money to actually get those mortars installed. Maybe you could also spend a ton of money getting mines set up around the COP itself, therefore making it even harder to become recaptured by the enemy team. You could do turrets, you could do guard dogs, I don't know, you could do a lot of stuff. I don't know, just get imaginative. I'm not saying you have to do all these things that I suggested. I'm just saying use your imagination and leverage remedies you can use for endgame boredom in games like this. COPs, in my opinion, are really cool because of this idea of being able to expand on them. And in my opinion, it's good that they're for now just changing the way they're contested and how enemies can spawn at them. Another thing they're changing is the announcer who kind of springs up on your radio every time a COP is being captured or PvP anywhere on the map is happening. In this test build of the game, since everybody was PvPing, it was incredibly annoying. He was announcing every single time somebody was getting shot and it was like constant and really loud. They've changed this now and they make it so the announcement only comes on the radio if a corresponding action is happening within like 300 meters of the player. So that will cut down on a lot of the chatter when you're trying to listen to footsteps and distant gunshots in Lemang. So those are the only two things that they're changing so far. Also, there's a bit of a bug with the scopes where they become way too dark when you're using them. These are specific to the Voodoo and the other powered scopes in the game. They're going to be fixing that. It's a bit of a bug that they're already working through. Another thing I want to see them adjust, and it seems to me they're being reluctant about actually addressing this, is the NVG visibility. Even when you're using IR lights and lasers, you still have a hard time seeing with the NVGs, even the best ones in the game. For me, they're very grainy. It's very hard to see in darker areas, and even when you're using the IR lights, it's very grainy and I would just not use them at all. I'd rather just like turn up my gamma in the game so darkness doesn't look all that dark and I can see players much more clearly. This decision in how NVGs work is very decisive, and I've seen a lot of people say they have NVGs and they don't look this grainy in real life, and a bunch of people that say they have them and it does, or a bunch of people that are saying that they should just be better, especially if you're willing to spend more money on them in game. Now, no matter how realistic these NVGs in the game might be to real ones in real life, I think it is time to have that discussion on what we should have in a game that makes it more realistic versus making it better to play. I think one of my favorite features in video games are NVGs, even though, like, if you like NVGs so much, why don't you just play in the daytime? I don't know, I just like NVGs. They're immersive. I like the fact that you can spend a lot of money on a good pair of NVGs and have the benefit of seeing at night and have to mentally compare it to losing those NVGs if you die. So in my opinion, they need to adjust this. They need to make them slightly less realistic and better just for the game. And there's a lot of things like that. The healing system, for example, doing surgery on your lungs and liver and then pumping yourself full of blood to get right back in the action isn't necessarily realistic, but it's something you need to do to be able to get back into the game so your player isn't taking 3 or 4 weeks off rest time when they get shot. Clear up the NVGs, make them easier to see. I really would like to see this in the game. I'm seeing the developers push back a lot on this suggestion, and that's okay. I understand they are very realistic. They look amazing, incredibly immersive. Let's turn down the gain a little bit in those NVGs so I can see a bit better throughout the jungle. This game is already kind of hard to see people. There's a lot of bushes, there's a lot of things that you're already looking out for, and I just wish the NVGs were a little bit clear and you could see better. Now, I know a lot of you guys are a little bit disappointed that this didn't come to the general public and it's exclusive to content creators right now. And on one hand, I do agree that they need to test things on a certain set of people, whether it's content creators or supporter edition holders, just so they can test any of the issues and work them out, which they are currently doing. I am seeing that. That is a good sign. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, they need to drop this thing. I want to see what this update's going to look like when everybody is going to be leveling up and going through the actual game progression in terms of doing their missions and unlocking better gear. I want that nice balance of doing missions and possibly getting into that chance encounter of PvP alongside the new features that are coming with the Winds of War update. Plus, I want the general public to get a hold of this because people are waiting. You can only watch people play the update for so long before you actually want to jump in and do it yourself. So they need to drop this, get it into people's hands so they can play it and experience it and have opinions for their own. That being said, I promise you this will be dropping very soon. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm almost certain it will. But guys, I want to know your opinions down below. I wish more of you were playing this because I want to hear hands-on experience, but let me know what you think about all these updates so far, what you would suggest adding to, say, the COPs or anything else that this update is bringing. And let's make Greyzone Warfare the best tactical shooter we have ever played. It looks like we're also starting Twitch drops really soon, guys. I believe they're starting today, but I'll make a YouTube post exactly on when I'll be doing it. So please come by, support me, like the stream, subscribe to this video. It really helps me out being the small creator that I am. I really appreciate you guys being here and watching for as long as you did. I will catch you guys in Greyzone Warfare. Thank you very much.